Fame brings bright lights, roaring applause, and unimaginable wealth, but behind the cameras, it often hides battles no one wants to talk about. What if I told you that some of Hollywood's biggest black stars were quietly fighting a dangerous war with alcohol? A struggle so intense it nearly destroyed their health, their careers, and the people they loved. But not all of them stayed trapped in that darkness. Some hit rock bottom and came back stronger than ever. Today, we're counting down 15 black actors who were constantly drunk, what nearly broke them, and how they fought their way back. Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington stands as one of Hollywood's most respected and accomplished actors. An Oscar winner with a commanding presence, he delivered unforgettable performances in films like Training Day, Man on Fire, and Flight. On screen, he was always composed, disciplined, and in complete control. But off-screen, Denzel was fighting a private battle few fans ever saw. For nearly 15 years, he later admitted he was drinking as much as 2 bottles of wine every single day. What began as a way to unwind slowly became a dependency. Alcohol became his escape from pressure, stress, and the relentless weight of fame. At first, it didn't feel dangerous. But over time, the damage crept in quietly. His health began to suffer. His energy faded. Deep down, he knew his body was warning him that something was wrong. Even as his career soared, alcohol was steadily tightening its grip behind the scenes. Approaching his 60th birthday, Denzel experienced a powerful wake-up call. He asked himself a hard question: do I want to grow old feeling exhausted and unhealthy? The answer was clear. That moment changed everything. He made the decision to quit drinking completely. Today, Denzel Washington is sober and unapologetically proud. He speaks openly about how sobriety transformed his life, giving him clarity, strength, and presence. More than anything, he says it made him a better husband, a better father, and a better man. Denzel chose change before it was too late. But the next actor's story takes a darker turn, one shaped by loss and heartbreak. Tyler Perry is more than just an actor. He is a writer, a director, a producer, and one of the most powerful business minds in Hollywood. His empire wasn't handed to him. It was built from nothing, forged through rejection, homelessness, and years of relentless failure. But even after success finally arrived, Tyler Perry was fighting a much darker battle behind the scenes. After the death of his mother, the pain hit deeper than anyone could see. Tyler later admitted that he turned to alcohol to numb the grief. Nights became sleepless, and drinking felt like the only way to silence his thoughts. Bottles of cognac became his escape during moments of unbearable loss. What began as temporary relief slowly turned into a dangerous dependency. Alcohol wasn't healing the pain, it was only postponing it. As his fame and fortune grew, so did the stakes. Tyler realized that if he stayed on this path, he could lose everything he had worked his entire life to build. That terrifying truth became his wake-up call. Instead of letting alcohol take control, Tyler made a life-changing decision to walk away. He chose discipline over destruction. He chose healing over hiding. And above all, he chose himself. By facing his grief head-on and channeling his energy into purpose-driven work, Tyler found clarity, focus, and strength. Today, he speaks openly about how quitting alcohol transformed his life. He believes his success comes not from talent alone, but from discipline. While Tyler Perry turned pain into purpose, the next Hollywood legend wasn't as fortunate, falling into addiction at the very height of fame. Louis Gossett Jr. was a true Hollywood legend. He made history as the first black man to win an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, and his performances left an unforgettable imprint on film and television. At the peak of his success in the 1980s, it seemed like nothing could slow him down. But behind the trophies, standing ovations, and flashing cameras, Louis was fighting a dangerous, private war. As the fame grew, so did the pressure. Long nights, non-stop parties, and the relentless Hollywood lifestyle quietly pulled him into alcohol and cocaine addiction. What began as casual, social drinking slowly twisted into something far more destructive. His body started to fail him. His focus faded, and his health slipped into serious danger, right at the moment when his career should have been reaching even greater heights. Eventually, Louis realized he was losing control. He understood that if he didn't stop, addiction would take everything he had worked for. That realization became his wake-up call. He entered treatment and committed himself fully to recovery, not just to save his career, but to save his life. After getting sober, Lewis spoke openly and honestly about his struggles, using his voice to shed light on addiction, recovery, and the responsibility of healing yourself. Even after achieving legendary status, he never pretended the journey was easy. Louis Gossett Jr. passed away in 2025, but his legacy goes far beyond awards and accolades. He is remembered not only for his iconic roles, but for his strength, his honesty, and his courage to fight back when addiction nearly claimed him. Lewis survived the dark side of Hollywood. But for the next actor, alcohol would push them into a full-blown mental health crisis. David Harewood, best known for commanding roles in Homeland and Supergirl, has built a career playing men of strength, authority, and unshakable confidence. On screen, he looked invincible. Off-screen, his reality was far more fragile and deeply personal. Long before his breakthrough success, David was quietly battling heavy drinking and cannabis use. Alcohol became his escape, a way to numb the pressure of the industry, the weight of expectations, and a lifelong struggle with identity and belonging. What began as coping slowly tightened into dependence. Eventually, addiction dragged him into a severe mental health crisis. David later revealed that he was hospitalized after suffering a breakdown, a terrifying moment that forced him to confront the damage alcohol had done to his mind and his life. That hospital bed became his wake-up call. When he opened his eyes, he knew he could not keep living the same way. He chose sobriety, therapy, and brutal self-honesty. Recovery was not quick or easy, but it gave him clarity, balance, and control. Today, David Harewood speaks openly about addiction and mental health, especially within the Black community, where these conversations are too often silenced. His turning point came in a hospital bed. For the next star, addiction wouldn't just threaten his health. It would begin tearing apart both his career and personal life. Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard is celebrated for his raw, emotionally charged performances in films like Hustle and Flow and the blockbuster TV series Empire. On screen, he embodied power, confidence, and control, but off-screen, his early career told a very different story. Behind the spotlight was a life marked by chaos, inner conflict, and self-destruction. Terrence has openly admitted that alcohol and substance abuse played a major role in derailing his personal and professional life. Drinking strained his relationships, clouded his judgment, and shattered his ability to stay grounded in his work. His behavior grew increasingly unpredictable, creating tension on set and quietly closing doors to major opportunities. At the very moment his career should have been soaring, addiction was slowly dragging him under. Eventually, Terrence hit a breaking point. He realized his lifestyle was costing him not just roles, but his peace, his focus, and his sense of self. Choosing rehab became the defining turning point of his life. Sobriety brought clarity, discipline, and a renewed sense of purpose. After recovery, he returned to his craft with sharper focus and emotional honesty. Many fans believe those dark years deepened his performances, allowing him to channel real pain and vulnerability into every role. Today, Terrence Howard speaks openly about the power of self-control, accountability, and focus. He credits walking away from destructive habits with rebuilding not only his career, but his confidence and identity as a man. Terrence survived his downfall and reclaimed his life, but the next actor wasn't as fortunate. For him, alcohol destroyed everything in a single night. Columbus Short. Once hailed as a rising force in Hollywood, Columbus Short seemed destined for long-term stardom. His breakout role on the hit series Scandal put him firmly in the spotlight, and the future looked wide open. But while his career was soaring on screen, his personal life was quietly unraveling. Behind closed doors, Columbus was battling severe alcohol and drug addiction, struggles that soon began to spill into public view. His behavior grew erratic, legal troubles followed, and the situation ultimately cost him his role on Scandal. Almost overnight, his reputation took a devastating hit and his career came to a sudden halt. At his lowest point, Columbus had lost his job, his sense of stability, and the trust of those closest to him. Yet instead of surrendering to the fall, he made the hardest choice of all. He chose to confront his addiction head-on. He entered treatment, committed to sobriety, and began rebuilding from the ground up. Recovery transformed his life. Columbus has since spoken candidly about how close he came to losing everything, admitting that addiction nearly destroyed his future. But through accountability, clarity, and help, he found a second chance. Today, Columbus short uses his journey as a powerful reminder that rock bottom doesn't have to be the end, it can be the beginning. Even one of Hollywood's calmest on-screen voices once fought a daily battle with alcohol and survived to tell the story, Morgan Freeman. Today, Morgan Freeman is celebrated for his soothing voice, commanding presence, and unforgettable performances. Many even joke that he sounds like the voice of God. But long before he became one of Hollywood's most respected actors, Freeman was quietly fighting a battle few people ever saw. In the 1970s, while working on the children's show The Electric Company, Freeman developed a serious drinking habit. He has openly admitted that he drank every single day, often going through large amounts of whiskey each week. At the time, alcohol felt normal, almost expected, in the entertainment world. It was how people unwound, bonded, and numbed the pressure. But slowly, the habit turned into a trap. Blackouts became common. Relationships grew strained. There were moments when Morgan barely recognized the man he saw in the mirror. Alcohol was no longer something he controlled. It was controlling him. Deep down, he knew it was damaging his health, his focus, and the future he hadn't yet reached. Then, in 1979, Morgan Freeman made a decision that would change his life forever. He chose sobriety. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Freeman later said that quitting alcohol saved his life and gave him the clarity to move forward. After getting sober, his career didn't explode overnight, but it steadily climbed. Year by year, he transformed into one of Hollywood's most admired figures, known for his discipline, professionalism, and quiet wisdom. And yet, Freeman's story was not unique. Another legendary voice in Hollywood was fighting a similar war, one that would leave its own powerful mark: Samuel L. Jackson. Few faces and voices in Hollywood are as instantly recognizable as his. From Pulp Fiction to commanding the screen as Nick Fury in the Marvel Universe, Samuel L. Jackson's presence is undeniable. But long before the fame, the awards, and the global respect, he was fighting a dangerous battle far from the spotlight. In the late 1980s, Jackson was deeply trapped in addiction. Alcohol and drugs controlled his daily life. Drinking wasn't occasional, it was routine. He later admitted that many mornings he woke up with no memory of the night before. The damage didn't stop with him. His addiction strained his family, sabotaged his focus, and quietly threatened to end his career before it truly began. Everything came crashing down when his loved ones refused to look away any longer. His family staged an intervention, forcing Samuel to confront the reality he had been running from. It was painful. It was humiliating. But it was also the moment that saved his life. He entered rehab and made the most important decision he would ever make: to get sober. Once he quit alcohol and drugs, everything changed. His clarity returned. His discipline sharpened. His talent finally had room to breathe. Not long after, his career exploded. Within just a few years, he landed powerful roles in Jungle Fever, Jurassic Park, and Pulp Fiction, transforming him into a global icon. Today, Samuel L. Jackson proudly speaks about being sober for over 30 years. He often says sobriety didn't just save his career, it saved his life. And yet, Samuel was far from the only star whose rise nearly ended because of alcohol. Danny Glover. Danny Glover is best known for his commanding performances in films like Lethal Weapon and The Color Purple. On screen, he embodied strength, confidence, and control. But behind the scenes, during the early rise of his career, Danny was fighting a quiet battle few fans ever saw. As success accelerated, so did the pressure. Grueling hours, relentless stress, and non-stop expectations slowly wore him down. Alcohol began as a way to unwind, a temporary escape. But over time, it turned into something he leaned on far too often. Danny later confessed that drinking started to cloud his focus, destabilize his emotions, and drain his overall health. What once felt like relief became a burden. Eventually, the truth became impossible to ignore. Alcohol wasn't easing the stress. It was intensifying it. That moment of clarity marked a turning point. Danny chose to walk away from drinking and take back control of his life. With sobriety came discipline, clarity, and purpose. He redirected his energy into activism, meaningful roles, and real-world impact. His performances grew deeper, his voice stronger, both on screen and in the causes he stood for. His career didn't fade. It matured. Next is an actor whose addiction cost him both his roles and his reputation. Michael K. Williams. Michael K. Williams was one of the most commanding and respected actors of his generation. He rose to fame through unforgettable performances in The Wire and Boardwalk Empire, where his characters felt raw, authentic, and hauntingly real. But behind the brilliance on screen, Michael was locked in a long, painful battle with addiction. As his career took off, heavy drinking and substance use quietly became part of his daily life. Michael later admitted that alcohol never eased his pain, it only intensified it. Instead of helping him handle pressure and fame, it dragged him deeper into dangerous choices and emotional darkness. Success did not shield him. In many ways, it made the fight even harder. Throughout his life, Michael entered recovery programs multiple times and spoke openly about his efforts to stay sober. Unlike many celebrities, he refused to hide his struggle. He talked honestly about addiction, relapse, and how difficult it was to break old habits in Hollywood. His courage helped shatter the silence surrounding addiction, especially for artists who felt too ashamed to ask for help. Though Michael K. Williams' life ended tragically, his voice did not. His openness about addiction and mental health brought real awareness to struggles often ignored or buried. And he was not the only rising star nearly destroyed by alcohol. Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx is one of Hollywood's most versatile entertainers. He can act, sing, and make people laugh, all at the very top of his game. But in the early years of his fame, Jamie admitted that heavy partying and drinking crept into his lifestyle. At first, it seemed normal. Fame brought late nights, non-stop celebrations, and social pressure that was impossible to escape. Jamie has said that alcohol slowly became something he leaned on, something that started creeping into his daily life. While he never publicly labeled himself addicted, he noticed it was affecting his focus, discipline, and routines. Over time, Jamie had a wake-up moment. Alcohol was dulling his edge. It was pulling him away from his goals, holding him back from reaching his full potential. That realization forced a choice: let drinking control his life, or take control. Jamie chose self-discipline and balance. He cut back on alcohol, redirected his energy toward health, focus, and long-term success, and as a result, he stayed consistent in his career, taking on major roles in both film and music. But not everyone is that lucky. Some actors don't see the damage until it's almost too late. Bernie Mac, one of the funniest, most brutally honest comedians Hollywood has ever seen. His humor hits so hard because it comes straight from life itself. But behind the laughter, Bernie carries a heavy weight: pressure from fame, non-stop work, and serious health struggles. During the most stressful moments of his career, he leans on alcohol to cope. Long tours, late nights, the constant demand to be funny, it all takes a toll on his body and mind. Alcohol might feel like a temporary escape, but it doesn't fix anything. Combined with his health issues, it only makes life harder. As he grows older, Bernie becomes more aware of how stress and lifestyle choices impact his health. He cuts back on drinking and focuses on caring for himself, understanding that fame can push anyone into unhealthy habits without them even noticing. Bernie never hides his struggles, but he refuses to let them define him. He keeps working, keeps making people laugh, keeps speaking honestly about pain, stress, and responsibility. His story shows that success doesn't erase pressure, it amplifies it. Bernie Mac leaves us too soon, but his journey matters. It reminds us that stress and fame can quietly shape our habits, especially when health is fragile. His life is a lesson: listen to your body, care for yourself, and remember that no level of success protects anyone, not even comedy legends. Chris Rock. Known for his razor-sharp humor and fearless honesty, Chris Rock turns everything into comedy: relationships, fame, politics, even personal pain. But behind the laughter, the pressure of constant touring and public scrutiny took its toll. During the peak of his career, Chris admits that alcohol became a way to cope. It clouded his judgment, strained his relationships, and added chaos to an already overwhelming life. Drinking didn't fix anything. It made the problems louder and the distance deeper. Eventually, Chris realized he couldn't ignore it any longer. He faced it head-on, embracing therapy and lifestyle changes, learning to understand himself and make healthier choices. That journey brought balance, clarity, and a new kind of strength. Today, he speaks openly about how therapy taught him self-control, responsibility, and emotional awareness, lessons born not from success, but from struggle. And now, let's turn to an actor whose addiction nearly erased his future: DMX. DMX isn't just a rapper, he's a force. On stage and on screen, in films like Belly, Romeo Must Die, and Exit Wounds, his energy hits raw, real, and unforgettable. But behind the spotlight, DMX lives with deep pain, and addiction shadows him at every turn. From a young age, he struggles with drugs and alcohol. As fame grows, so do the problems. Drinking and substance use slowly tighten their grip, affecting his health, his choices, his life. DMX admits it openly: addiction follows him everywhere, even at the height of his success. His drinking worsens the chaos, fueling legal troubles, broken relationships, and repeated health scares. Over the years, he enters rehab again and again, always speaking honestly about wanting change, wanting peace, stability, a better life. But addiction doesn't go down easily. What sets DMX apart is his honesty. He never hides behind perfection. In interviews, he talks openly about his struggles, his faith, his failures, showing the world that addiction isn't weakness, it's a relentless inner battle. Even with countless attempts at recovery, addiction remains a constant fight for DMX. His passing shocks fans worldwide, yet his story continues to shine a light on addiction, mental health, and the power of real support. Above all, DMX's life reminds us how alcohol and addiction can quietly take control. No one is untouchable. Idris Elba. Idris Elba is known today as the embodiment of discipline, focus, and confidence. From The Wire to Luther and Thor, his career radiates control and power. But early on, Idris admits, alcohol quietly became a part of his daily routine. When he was fighting to make it in Hollywood, drinking felt normal. It killed time, eased stress, and helped him socialize. Over time, though, he notices the truth: alcohol is holding him back. It drains his energy, weakens his discipline, and slows his growth. Unlike many, Idris faces the problem head-on. He's honest with himself and decides to quit drinking. That choice changes everything. Sobriety sharpens his focus, steadies his mind, and fuels his ambition. He openly credits his career success to walking away from alcohol, not because of a scandal, not because of a breakdown, but because he wants more from life. Today, Idris proudly talks about his sobriety and challenges others to examine their habits honestly. His story proves that addiction isn't always loud. It can be a silent, creeping habit quietly limiting your potential. Quitting doesn't take anything away. It gives everything. If this story inspired you, like, subscribe, and comment on which Hollywood journey shocked you the most. More real stories are coming your way.